Single dad failed the interview, but the woman in the room was the real boss. The clock on the wall ticked mercilessly as Mark Thompson's hands trembled, coffee spilling onto his only good dress shirt. He was already 15 minutes late to the interview that could change everything for him and his daughter. What he didn't know was that the quiet woman taking notes in the corner would see something in him that the hiring manager missed entirely. If you've ever felt like life has stacked the odds against you, this story might just give you hope. Hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us second chances come when we least expect them. Mark Thompson rushed through the lobby of Westfield Solutions, his heart pounding against his ribs. The receptionist gave him a sympathetic look as he tried to catch his breath. "I'm so sorry I'm late," he said, adjusting his slightly wrinkled tie. "There was an emergency at my daughter's school and I—" "Mr. Thompson?" A stern voice interrupted. A tall man in an impeccable suit stood in the doorway, checking his watch with obvious disapproval. "I'm Richard Keller, VP of Operations. We were about to cancel your interview." Mark swallowed hard. "Please, I really need this opportunity. My daughter." "We're running a business here, not a charity," Richard said coldly. "But since you're here, we might as well proceed." As Mark followed Richard down the hallway, he noticed his shirt stain had spread. Perfect. Just perfect. 6 months of unemployment, dozens of rejected applications, and now this, his best shot at a stable job with health benefits was slipping away before the interview even started. Inside the conference room, Richard gestured to a chair across from him. A woman sat quietly in the corner, her face partially hidden behind a laptop. She didn't introduce herself, and Richard didn't acknowledge her. "Your resume says you were at Pinnacle Tech for 8 years. Why did you leave?" Richard began, not looking up from Mark's resume. "I didn't leave voluntarily," Mark admitted. "There were company-wide layoffs after the merger. My entire department was eliminated." Richard made a non-committal sound. "And in the 6 months since then?" Mark hesitated. "I've been applying everywhere, but it's been challenging. I'm a single father, and my daughter Emma has some health issues that require regular appointments." "I see." Richard's tone made it clear he didn't see it all. "And how would these personal obligations affect your ability to commit to our demanding schedule? We often require overtime and weekend availability." The woman in the corner looked up briefly, her eyes meeting Mark's for just a moment. "I understand the demands of the position," Mark said carefully. "I've always been dedicated to my work. At Pinnacle, I managed multiple critical projects simultaneously and—" His phone buzzed loudly. Mark fumbled to silence it, but not before seeing Emma's school on the caller ID. "I'm sorry, I need to take this." "It's my daughter's school," he said, his voice tight with anxiety. Richard's expression hardened. "Mr. Thompson, we're in the middle of an interview." "It will just take a moment," Mark insisted, already standing. "Please." Without waiting for permission, he stepped into the hallway and answered the call. Emma had fallen during recess and was complaining of severe pain in her wrist. They thought it might be broken. Could he come right away? When Mark returned to the conference room, his face was pale. "I'm terribly sorry, but I have to go. My daughter's been injured at school." Richard stood, his disappointment evident. "I think we've seen enough, Mr. Thompson. We need someone who can prioritize this position. I'll show you out." The woman in the corner finally spoke. "Actually, Richard, I'd like a word with Mr. Thompson before he leaves." Richard looked surprised but nodded stiffly. "5 minutes, Catherine. We have other candidates waiting." He left, closing the door behind him. Catherine moved to the chair Richard had vacated. "Your daughter, is she okay?" "They think she broke her wrist," Mark said, already gathering his things. "I'm sorry, but I really need to go." "Of course you do," Catherine said. "Family comes first. Always." Something in her tone made Mark pause. She wasn't being sarcastic. I'm Catherine Chen, by the way. CEO of Westfield Solutions. Mark's eyes widened. I didn't realize. Few do, at first, she said with a small smile. I like to observe interviews occasionally. You learn a lot about people, and about your own company culture, that way. She handed him her business card. Call me when your daughter is settled. I'd like to continue our conversation. But the position is still open, as far as I'm concerned. She stood. Now go. Your daughter needs you. The emergency room was crowded, but Emma was brave. At 10 years old, she had already endured more hospital visits than most adults. The fracture wasn't severe, but it required a cast. I'm sorry, Dad, she said, her eyes welling with tears. I know you had an important interview today. Mark kissed her forehead. Hey, nothing's more important than you, kiddo. We'll figure something out. But as he drove home, Emma sleeping in the back seat, exhaustion from the day's events finally caught up with him. 6 months of rejections, dwindling savings, and now medical bills they couldn't afford. He had been counting on that job at Westfield. After settling Emma in bed, Mark found Catherine's business card in his pocket. It was nearly 9 p.m., too late to call. He set it aside, but then his phone rang. An unknown number. Hello? Mr. Thompson? It's Catherine Chen. I hope I'm not calling too late. Mark was stunned. No, not at all. I was going to call you tomorrow. How's your daughter? She'll be okay. Broken wrist, but a clean break. She's sleeping now. I'm glad to hear it. There was a pause. Mr. Thompson, I'd like to offer you the position. Mark nearly dropped the phone. What? But the interview was unconventional, I admit. But sometimes life's most important tests aren't the ones we prepare for. They're the ones that catch us off guard and reveal who we truly are. I don't understand. When your daughter needed you, you didn't hesitate. That told me everything I needed to know about your character and your priorities. Her voice softened. 15 years ago, I was in your position, a single parent struggling to balance work and family. Someone took a chance on me. Now I'm paying it forward. Mark sank into a chair, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say you'll accept the offer. The position comes with flexible hours, comprehensive health insurance, and the understanding that family emergencies happen. We'll email the details tomorrow. Yes, Mark said, his voice breaking. Yes, I accept. Thank you. One more thing, Catherine added. We have an excellent internship program for high school students. Something to keep in mind for Emma's future. After they hung up, Mark sat in the quiet apartment, Catherine's card still in his hand. For the first time in months, he felt something he'd almost forgotten, hope. Mark's first day at Westfield was a whirlwind. Catherine introduced him to the team personally, making it clear he had her full support. Richard Keller was professional but cool, clearly surprised by Catherine's decision. Thompson, Richard said during the department meeting, I expect you to prove the CEO's faith in you wasn't misplaced. I intend to, Mark replied calmly. Over the following weeks, Mark threw himself into his work, determined to justify Catherine's decision. He stayed late when Emma was with her grandparents, came in early when possible, and quickly proved himself invaluable to the team. One evening, as he was preparing to leave at 5 p.m. to pick up Emma from her after-school program, Richard approached his desk. Leaving already, Thompson? We have the client presentation tomorrow. My materials are ready, Mark said, showing Richard his completed slides. I've triple-checked everything. Richard reviewed them, clearly searching for flaws and finding none. Fine. But be here early tomorrow. As Mark gathered his things, he noticed Catherine watching from her office. She gave him a subtle nod of approval. The next day, the presentation was a success. The client signed a contract worth millions, and Mark's contribution was significant. Richard grudgingly acknowledged his work during the team celebration. "Not bad, Thompson," he said, offering a rare compliment. "Maybe Catherine saw something I missed." "Thank you," Mark replied. "I appreciate the opportunity to prove myself." Later, Catherine called Mark into her office. "Congratulations on the Harrington account. Richard tells me your presentation was instrumental in closing the deal." "Just doing my job," Mark said modestly. "How's Emma's wrist healing?" "The cast comes off next week. She's already talking about getting back to soccer." Catherine smiled. "She sounds resilient. Like her father." "We do what we have to do," Mark said. "But it's easier when someone believes in you." "I have a proposal," Catherine said, sliding a folder across her desk. "We're creating a new position, Director of Work-Life Integration. The role would involve developing policies to help employees balance their professional and personal responsibilities. Given your experience, I think you'd be perfect for it." Mark opened the folder, stunned by the salary figure. "This is generous." "It's what the position is worth," Catherine said firmly. "And there's something else. I'd like to implement a pilot program for parents with chronically ill children. Flexible schedules, remote work options, emergency childcare support. Would you help me design it?" "Absolutely," Mark said, emotion thick in his voice. "It would make a world of difference for families like mine." "I know," Catherine said quietly. "My daughter had juvenile arthritis. Every doctor's appointment felt like choosing between her health and our livelihood. I had no idea. Few people do. But it shaped my management philosophy. A company that supports its employees through life's challenges earns loyalty no amount of money can buy." 6 months later, Mark stood at a podium, addressing Westfield's entire staff. Behind him, Catherine beamed with pride as he unveiled the new Family Support Initiative. "Today marks a new chapter for Westfield Solutions," Mark began. "We're implementing comprehensive policies that recognize our employees as whole people with lives and responsibilities outside these walls." He outlined the program: flexible scheduling, emergency childcare services, extended family leave, and a parent mentorship network. The room erupted in applause when he finished. Richard approached him afterward. "I owe you an apology, Thompson. I judged you unfairly that day." "Water under the bridge," Mark said, extending his hand. "We all have different perspectives." "My wife's expecting our first child," Richard admitted. "I'm starting to understand why these policies matter." "Congratulations," Mark said sincerely. "And if you ever need advice on balancing it all, my door's always open." That evening, Mark and Emma celebrated with pizza and ice cream. She was fully recovered now, her soccer trophies proudly displayed on their bookshelf. "Dad," she said between bites, "Miss Chen called me today." Mark raised an eyebrow. "She did?" Emma nodded. "She asked if I'd help with a video for the company website. About kids whose parents work at Westfield. Is that okay?" "If you want to do it, absolutely." "I do. I told her how you always make my doctor's appointments even when you're super busy. And how you never miss my soccer games." Emma looked down at her plate. "I told her you're my hero." Mark's throat tightened. "You're mine too, kiddo." Later, after Emma was asleep, Mark received a text from Catherine. The board unanimously approved the initiative. "You've changed Westfield for the better. Thank you for showing us what true leadership looks like." Mark looked around the apartment, no longer a symbol of his struggles but a home filled with hope. On the refrigerator, Emma had posted her latest drawing, a stick figure in a business suit with the words, "My dad, superhero at work and home." Sometimes failure is just success in disguise. Sometimes the person quietly observing from the corner sees your true worth when others miss it. And sometimes, when life knocks you down, it's setting you up for something better than you ever imagined. 1 year to the day after that disastrous interview, Mark stood in the same conference room, now interviewing candidates himself. A nervous young woman sat across from him, apologizing profusely for being late. "My son has special needs," she explained, her hands shaking. "His therapy session ran over, and I..." "Take a breath," Mark said gently. "Family comes first here at Westfield. Always." The relief in her eyes reminded him of himself, 1 year ago. As they continued the interview, Catherine passed by the glass wall, giving him a knowing smile. Some failures aren't failures at all. They're doorways to exactly where we're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content that reminds us all that our greatest challenges often lead to our greatest opportunities. Remember, sometimes the real boss isn't the person with the title, it's the person with the wisdom to see beyond appearances and the courage to give second chances.